Oh no! Disaster! That can only mean one thing!
Doggone it, you're right. It looks like they've ordered a sequel.
Oh!
We're doing a sequel. We're back by popular demand. Come on, everybody, strike up the band. We're doing a sequel.
The sequel that nobody was expecting, Enter the Gungeon 2, was announced this morning as part of the latest Nintendo Direct. One hell of a thing to wake up to. In all the hype and buzz for this newest release from the Dodge Roll team, I've gotten plenty of requests to break down the little scraps of material that we've been given. Before we start, in the description of this video you'll find links to both the raw teaser trailer for the game, as well as the Nintendo Direct version with voiceover from Dodge Roll's lead designer Dave Croaks. Go watch one or both of these if you haven't already, so that we're on the same footing going into this quick breakdown. The trailer opens on a statue of the Gungeon goddess Caliber, many-armed planar patron of the chambers. Already we can see she's been given a subtle redesign. The rim of spikes which adorned her slug in her initial iteration has been removed in favour of a halo. She's ditched the machine pistol in her lower left hand for favour of the lowercase r of all guns, and her shoulders are adorned with ammo-toting bandoliers. This statue also shows her standing on a set of eldritch tentacles, which may not necessarily be a redesign because her feet have never been visible before. This statue itself sits atop a large pipe organ, the pipes of which have been styled to resemble upside-down sniper shells, with the mouth of the pipe being the mouth of the shell. The organ is being played by a little gungerer who's dwarfed by it. As we zoom out from the pipe organ, we can see a few more details about the room, which resembles the Abbey. To the left of the organ is a statue, or taxidermy, of a demonic horned head with glowing red eyes, typical Gungeon decor. Unworthy of note, except for the fact that, at least to me, it closely resembles the gargoyle entity shown in the statues in the Hunter's Past and in the Old King's boss room. Speaking of gargoyles, to the right of the organ, as we zoom out even further, we can see a statue of a giant winged bullat. This, to me, looks to be one of the giant gargoyle bullats from the RNG department in the original. For those who don't know, these enemies were originally supposed to start out as statues, but come to life to attack you. This behaviour was scrapped, with the gargoyles starting out active from the moment you enter the room, but this statue in the sequel trailer pretty closely resembles their inert stony forms. The centerpiece of the scene, however, is a bulletkin strapped to an altar, at the center of a ritual conducted by 5 more gungerers. The glowing red ritual circle around the altar is set with pulsating runic letters, resembling the famous Elder Futhark runes of Old Norse, but I don't think they spell out anything of note. From there, several more bulletkins spawn and agglutinate together to a giant bulletkin-shaped amalgam which sets itself upon the pilot, our first, and currently only, confirmed reoccurring Gungeoneer. All in all, this seems to be a dramatic boss intro sequence for this giant collective of shells. The collective boss attacks the pilot with a pair of lasers from its compound eyes, which in turn leave trails of bullets to travel outwards, and erupting waves of projectiles from the walls they hit. The pilot in turn retaliates with the AK-47, little numbers popping up showing that, unless the scout is going to make a reappearance, hit enemies might just show damage numbers by default when they take damage. After dodging that attack with what looks to be surprisingly forgiving bullet hitboxes, or trailer magic and vulnerability, the pilot pulls out the Yari launcher and blows a massive hole in the boss. Looks like here each bulletkin in the mass has their own health bar, letting you sequentially damage the collective in a way that, I've gotta say, is really cool. I'm a sucker for enemies that can dynamically wound. The gameplay portion is over after that, switching to the sequel's new and shiny logo. I wasn't lying when I said that this was a really small snippet. But we're not done yet, there's a few more secrets in this video. In the periphery of the logo, we can see a bunch of shadowy shapes milling about in the darkness. This same scene, minus the platform and company logos, is used on the Steam listing for the game, and by brightening it up a little, we can see that these are actually guns, potentially confirming a few more recurring weapons that we can expect from the sequel. In addition to the AK-47 and Yari launcher from earlier, we can make out the Unicorn Horn, Bundle of Wands, Fat Line, Gunther, Plunger, Crestfaller, the MAC-10 or machine pistol, the Flare Gun or the Derringer, and Cactus. There's also what might be the M16, something resembling the Trank Gun, an obscured Sheller Gun, a gun reminiscent of the Grey Mauser, and an unidentified revolver pistol. That leaves these 5 guns. First, this to me looks like the rat's favourite elementaler, but with a bunch of other crap sticking out of it that I can't really identify. Next up, this looks to be a sort of box rocket, similar to the Commando. This may well be simply a more realistic design of the Commando, but that remains to be seen. These next 2, I just have no idea. One looks like a box and the other like a blob. Your guess is as good as mine. Last, but most certainly not least, is this gun. Some of you might not recognize this weapon, but you better believe I did. This gun with its bone stock and spiny ridges is unmistakable as the Last Dragon's AK-47 from Exit the Gungeon. Not only including a weapon from Exit, but a boss-only weapon from Exit is a bold move and has some more implications for the game. If you'll let me get floppy for a second here, the Last Dragon in Exit the Gungeon is unique in that it's the game's only 3D boss, taking advantage of the 3D background space to weave around during its attacks. Its Diginomicon description says that this is because it died close to the curtain, where dimensions intersect, causing another dimension, the third dimension, to latch onto its bones and reanimate it to terrible life. Normally, I wouldn't think this was relevant, but with the teaser trailer for the 3D sequel containing a direct reference to the 3D Dragon, could it be possible that this parasitic encroaching of the third dimension is an in-universe explanation for the art style change? Probably not, but it's food for thought. The Steam page for the sequel promises new weapons and enemies, new areas, potentially meaning new chambers, and new Gungeoneers, without giving out any names. It also promises that active items will be returning as a mechanic after their shafting in Exit the Gungeon, as well as blessings and curses. Curses might refer to the curse stat from the first game, while blessings could mean anything from the sorceress's gun blessing to beneficial shrine effects. The wording here is too vague to be certain. This line here suggests that the game will be taking advantage of the possibilities presented by the 3D art style to introduce physics, verticality, and increased exploitation of environmental hazards into the various gunfights. Exciting if true. The last line is our only hint to the story. If you've paid attention to the story of any Gungeon game, it makes zero sense for the pilot and his cohorts to linger in this accursed fortress, suggesting that an element of the story will be figuring out why you're still here, why the Gungeon remains. There's a handful of images on the Steam page, stills from the trailer we've already gone over, as well as this shit-eating looking Gatling gull, confirming his reappearance. All my cards on the table, I don't like this reimagining of the gull, it's just so smooth and brightly coloured. Compare it to the gull in the original game, that bugger looks rugged, sweaty, kinda gross. He looks like he smells like a locker room, which is impressive given he probably doesn't have testicles. This guy, on the other hand, looks like a big inflatable caricature who'd be tied to a parade float. I support the developers changing up their art styles and exploring different avenues. It's not just that it's different, it's that it evokes an entirely different feeling to the original. I hope they rough him up a bit before release, make him look more smelly. Anyway, that's really all I have for you today. I'll certainly be keeping a close eye on the development of this game as more information becomes available. But with a release date set for sometime in 2026, we'll probably have to wait at least a year to get our hands on it. Take care all, and happy Gungeoneering. See ya!